Line. It is close to 10 o'clock p.m. here in London, still afternoon there in the United States, as inside the Wembley Conference Center, right next to historic Wembley Stadium, we prepare for this World Welterweight Championship fight between Lloyd Honeyghan of England and challenger Johnny Bumpus of the United States. Hello again, I'm Jim Lampley, and first of all, one piece of business. There are three self-appointed governing bodies in boxing. When Lloyd Honeyghan defeated Donald Curry last September, he won all three versions of the World Welterweight Championship. But since that time, Honeyghan has relinquished his WBA welterweight title. He says because that organization sanctions bouts involving South African fighters. So tonight, because of a jurisdictional dispute, only the IBF World Championship is at stake. Even if Honeyghan were to lose, he would still be the WBC World Welterweight Champion. For more on that, our boxing expert, Alex Wallau. And Alex, what do you make of all that?
Well, Jim, it's hard to imagine a more ludicrous situation than the WBC champion meeting the #1 rated WBC challenger and the WBC refusing to recognize the fight. When you put aside all the crazy politics, the facts really are very, very simple. Lloyd Honeyghan beat Donald Curry for the undisputed welterweight championship of the world. And in my opinion, unless somebody beats him in the ring, Lloyd Honeyghan should be recognized as the world welterweight champion.
Now, the challenger, Johnny Bumpus of the United States, now living in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, enters the ring right there. 29 wins, 1 loss, 7 straight wins as a welterweight. He was once the WBA junior welterweight champion of the world. He is given little chance in the press and among ringsiders here of defeating the new champion, Lloyd Honeyghan, who is 26-0 and making his way into the ring right now. An important fight, as you pointed out earlier, Alex, for Johnny Bumpus.
Yeah, and the important thing to remember about the statistics that you just saw in terms of Johnny Bumpus's record, he has 20 knockouts in 30 fights, but he is not a puncher. That statistic in terms of knockouts speaks more about the quality of the opposition than about his power. He says that he's settled down now more. He's gone through a conditioning program with Tim Hallmark in Houston, that same program that Evander Holyfield used when he won the title. He says he's stronger. He says he's going to plan himself better. He says he will show power tonight.
This is the first chance Englishmen have had to root for their new welterweight champion, Lloyd Honeyghan, and they are going to cut their lungs loose right now as Honeyghan makes his way into the ring. Born in Jamaica, now lives in Bermondsey, right on the south edge of London. You see him being preceded into the ring there by his manager, Mickey Duff, and Honeyghan cuts quite a figure in this sequined robe and sequined shorts.
The new champion. You know, Honeyghan's win, Jim, was a tremendous boost for the prestige of British boxing, which has a special place in the long history of this sport because it was here in England over 250 years ago that the sport of boxing as we know it today began to take shape. Early in the 18th century, a famous swordsman from Oxfordshire, James Figg, took an interest in organizing bare-knuckle boxing. His business card advertised him as the master of the noble science of defense. But at the time, there was nothing scientific about the sport. In 1719, James Figg opened the first Academy of Boxing on this intersection in London. And a year later, he overcame the challenge of a Gravesend pipefitter named Ned Sutton to become boxing's first champion. The sport grew in popularity over the next century until 1824, when the resounding success of the first grandstand show demonstrated boxing's hold on the British public. But despite several sets of rules, boxing still involved considerable mayhem. Kicking, biting, and gouging were banned, but everything else was allowed. Until 1865, when John Sholto Douglas, the 8th Marquess of Queensberry, drew up his famous Rules of Boxing, which laid the groundwork for the sport's modern era.
Gentlemen, the Queen.
The Queen! Today, the English version of boxing retains a special flavor, from the black tie shows conducted by the National Sporting Club to the gymnasiums, which are often found a floor above the local public house. The gym usually takes the name of the pub, with this one the Royal Oak in East London, one of the most famous. In the first half of this century, these gyms produced a number of outstanding champions, including Ted Kid Lewis, twice welterweight champion, the famous Mighty Atom, flyweight champ Jimmy Wilde, Jackie Berg, outstanding lightweight in the 30s, Randy Turpin scored the biggest victory in British boxing history when he upset Sugar Ray Robinson. But that was 36 years ago. And since then, English fans have waited in vain for an outstanding champion. The most recent disappointment came last July, when 41,000 fans turned out at 2 in the morning, only to see their hero, Frank Bruno, destroyed by Tim Witherspoon. Crushing losses like this one have led to a defeatist attitude in the fans and the press here, a feeling that their fighters can't beat world-class opposition. In their minds, an English champion like Lloyd Hunnigan had no chance against the likes of Donald Curry. But last September, it was Lloyd Hunnigan who thoroughly outclassed Donald Curry, battering the defending champion over 6 rounds and scoring England's biggest victory since Turpin took the middleweight crown from Robinson. A week later, Lloyd returned to his hometown of Bermondsey in South London, where the reception reflected the pride of the neighborhood in their new champion. As for Lloyd himself, he says that winning the title was only half the battle.
I wanted people to remember me as a great fighter that's come out of Britain, not just another champion. I want to be remembered as one of the greats.
And he can take at least one small step toward that image of greatness. He can knock off Johnny Bumpus tonight. There are a number of appealing traditions that surround English boxing. One of them, playing of the British national anthem, God Save the Queen. So now the ring will begin to clear out. The fighters will receive their instructions, and we get ready for this IBF World Welterweight Championship fight as you get a good look at Bumpus in his corner. Alex Wallau. Bumpus is taller and perhaps a bit quicker, and he believes that he brings, as a former champion in the junior welterweight class, a fresh outlook into this fight.
When I lost my junior welterweight title, I had lost, a lot. I lost a lot mentally, and I wasn't putting out 100% like I know that I'm able to. I didn't really start trying to become the fighter that I once was until about the Stalling fight, and then I still didn't give 100% in that fight, but now I'm back on the road, and this will be my second world title, and I'm going to win it.
Johnny Bumpus was a member of the 1980 American Olympic boxing team, which did not go to Moscow. He has had an, at some times, outstanding professional career, but this, as Alex Wallau pointed out earlier, a crossroads fight for him against a fighter who really stunned the world with his dominating victory over Curry last September, and now must be taken in every way seriously as an outstanding champion. The tale of the tape shows that Bumpus is taller. We have in the past thought of him at times as a 6-foot fighter, but our measurement found